Hi guys, welcome back to the Bible.
It's a podcast where we share our questions and your questions, and we find answers back in the Bible.
I'm Julietta.
I'm Lisette.
And I'm Keilyn, and I am your host today for our second part of our three-part series of our testimonies. I feel like we felt like a lot of people, you guys know who we are, and we talk about the Bible, but sometimes people just don't know how we started and why we started this and how we saw God through our lives that led us to start this podcast. So I'm going to give my testimony today, which I'm a little nervous about because this is kind of intimidating. But I guess we can go ahead and start.
Get right into it.
Okay, so many people know, or many people don't know, but my parents are, my dad is an elder of the church that I've grown up in since I was in my mother's womb. But my parents came from Cuba, and they went to Miami and then for a year, and then they came to Orlando, and they settled down here, right? They started going to this church. They had been Christians and SDAs all their life, and obviously when they had me and my sister, we're going to be Christian SDAs. I feel like it was a rite of passage, and I know Julieta has a different story. If you want to know about that, watch last week's episode. But I think you had similar beginnings.
Yeah.
You grow up in the Adventist church, you're used to the norms, practices, all of this and stuff. But I think really the first time I remember seeing God in my life, and I'll tell a story, but it's kind of comedic because it's my fault. All of this was my fault, even though I will not admit it. But okay. So when I was when I was 7 years old, I had just turned 7 years old. It was August, 2 weeks before my birthday, which is in August, so it's right as my second grade year was beginning. My family, we went roller skating, and it was something that we did very often. And at this point in my life, I came to Sabbath school. I came to church every Saturday. I was a kid that was always always wanted to talk, always wanted I learned my memory verses very easily. I knew my stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
just say I knew my stuff. I loved to sing on the stage and stuff. All this stuff. I was a happy kid. And then when I was in second grade, about to start my second grade year, I went roller skating. And it was the last time we would go roller skating of the summer because school was starting.
Yeah.
And we had gone through, it was late. The place was about to close, and they were announcing, hey, this is the last song. The place was saying it. And my parents had told me, hey, it's time to take off your skates, go. And my mom was on one side of the roller skating rink, and she had told me, go to where your dad is, who was on the other side taking off his skates. She's go over there and take off your skates so that, we can get ready to go, because there was a bunch of us there. And I was okay, whatever. Me being a little 7-year-old, I was I don't need to do that. I don't care. I'm going to do one more round. She's never going to know, because she had went to go get water that was still on the opposite side of the roller skating rink. Right, so I go one more time, and on the last time, as I'm it's an oval, right? My dad is over here, and I'm going around right here, almost diagonal to where my dad was. I fall, and this fall was unlike any other, where I sat and I sat crisscross applesauce, my legs, I sat I was sitting down crisscross, and instead of it just you just fall, my skate had hit my left or my right tibia. Right, so this is me, and then I did some crisscross move where I sat down and I hit my tibia, and I heard a crack.
Oh my!
And as a 7-year-old, or I was 6, about to turn 7, I just remember I was why is my foot going numb? I started freaking out because I was in the middle of the skating rink, diagonal to my dad. And right then and there, I start yelling and crying and screaming. I'm Dad, please. I don't know what to do. My leg is hurting. I'm in the middle of the rink. How am I supposed to get out of this rink? There's people skating. It's the last song, whatever. I ended up dragging myself to the rink. But to where I sat, my dad couldn't see me. And my mom was on the opposite side getting water. My sister and one of our closest friends was still in the rink. No one saw me. And I just remember crying. My leg was hurting. It was going numb. I felt that tingle. To this day, I remember sitting there and just having that tingling sensation. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stay here forever. Like, I remember screaming to the top of my lungs to my mom, to my dad, my sister, and no one heard me. Like, I felt so helpless. I was like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden, and I, like, this is a part that gives me chills. All of a sudden, as I'm crying, this girl comes. She's, like, quite a bit older than I am. She comes up to me. She's like, hey, are you okay? And I don't remember much of that interaction. I really don't. But I just remember that girl, she comes, she runs. Her mom comes, and her mom is, like, helping me take off my skate. Like, she sees that I'm visibly crying. And the mom sends the daughter to go find my dad. And I was like, he's right there. Like, and I was just screaming in so much pain. But to this day, I don't remember that lady's face. I don't remember their face. I just remember it was a girl, her mom, and a little brother. And to me, that was the first time I saw God. Because as a little 7-year-old, I was like, I'm so helpless. I'm stuck here. I'm staying here forever. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, this is, like, it's crazy. And, like, a little 7-year-old, like, everything is, like, 10 times more, like, insane than it should be. And just seeing her, I was like, that was an angel. Looking back now, I'm like, that was literally an angel in a human form. And I didn't know it. So then fast forward a little bit. My parents come get me. They take off my skates. And they realize that my foot is getting really swollen. So literally at this point, everybody's gone from the roller skating rink. It's just me and my family. And they call the ambulance. And I remember, like, laying down on, like, the bench. And the guy comes over and he's like, okay, can you wiggle your toes? And I start wiggling my toes, but I couldn't. Like, in my head, I was like, I'm wiggling my toes, but it hurts so bad. Like, I can feel a tingling sensation, and I just can't. And then the guy was like, yeah, you broke your leg. Like, that's not good. And I was like, oh, my goodness, I'm about to start school in 2 days. My birthday's in a couple days. Like, oh, my gosh. And, like, again, a little 6-7-year-old, like, I was just worried about school. Like, I want to meet my friends. And my birthday. Like, and I was supposed to have, like, a fun birthday. And I was like, my birthday. Like, and now I have to now my leg is broken. What? So we got taken to a hospital. And I, like, from that time, I just remember the x-rays hurt so bad. Like, it was the worst pain. Like, my mom would tell you.
Because they be putting your legs in some weird positions.
Dude, and they have to straighten out your leg. And, like, I couldn't. Like, my mom literally told me that, like, I would, like, my screams, you could hear them on the other side of the hall.
Wow. Like,
that's how bad it was. And then they sedated me. They had to give me anesthesia 3 times because I would not knock out. And the taste, I still remember that taste. It was the nastiest taste in the entire universe. Like, nothing will ever beat that. And then as I'm knocked out, the doctors came in to, like, mobilize my, like, to put it back in place, put the bone back in place. Actually, in the x-rays, they had seen that my bone had broken in 2 places. Like, your bone is like a thing, and it broke like this. Like, it wasn't fully broken, but it was broken enough that, I would need surgery, and I would need pins, and I needed surgery the next day, right? Which isn't a very important fact. I needed surgery the next day.
Recovery for your birthday.
Hey, I mean, and, like, surgery, like, it's scary, especially the kid, like, the effects of anesthesia, you never know what will happen. Yeah. But I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like, I was knocked out. I didn't really know what was happening, but I just remember when I was under that anesthesia and they were about to mobilize my foot, I'm still knocked out. But I remember feeling such pain that I put my hands back. Like, I'm laying down. I'm knocked out. Like, anesthesia. Like, you can't, like, I'm not awake. And I remember reaching back and grabbing whoever was behind me, and my mom said I grabbed her jaw and I squeezed it so bad, and, like, she says I almost dislocated her jaw. 6-7-year-old, like, about to be 7-year-old, dislocating my mom's jaw because of the amount of pain.
Knocked out.
While I'm knocked out. Like, that's how much pain I was in, and that's how bad I needed surgery. Like, obviously, like, there's been worse breaks. People have worse breaks, and a kid's bone heals, but it was bad. And it was so much pain. I remember, like, faintly, like, grabbing onto something and squeezing it, and, like because I was in so much pain. And that night, once the anesthesia was wearing off, I have a boot on my foot, and I turn around, and I see my mom crying. And I was like, Mom, why are you crying? And she's like, no, it's fine. I'm okay. And I was like, okay, whatever. And, like, I go back to sleep. Next day comes, and my mom tells me, she's like, you're about to go into surgery. It's going to be scary, but you're going to be fine. You're just going to go to sleep, and you're going to come out, and you're going to be fine. And I was like, okay. They put, like, for kids, at least in the States, I don't know if any other country does this or any other hospital does it, but this hospital that I was in, they put like oxygen masks, and they came with like different like scents that you could have. So you could have like a banana scent or like a strawberry scent,
that's so cool.
in order to help the kid relax, right? And I remember like I had chosen out my scent, like I had my IV, like I was like in the room to go get like to that transports you to the operating room. And this lady comes and she's like, I know this is like really like out of the blue, but like we don't usually do this, but I felt like I need to give you another x-ray. Like I just feel like you guys should take another x-ray. And I was like, okay. Like my parents were like, okay, like if that's what the doctor ordered, like it's fine. She takes an x-ray, goes back, comes back, and she was like, yeah, so actually the surgery has been canceled. Your bone is in the position that it won't need to be healed. Like it'll heal on its own. Like you don't need like
The surgery.
you don't need the surgery. You'll be fine. I had a cast all the way up to my hip. Keep in mind, like this happened like right above my foot, like this break, and I had my cast all the way up to my hip. I was in a wheelchair for like 3 months, but I didn't need surgery. And to this day, like my mom will always say like that was God. That was God who healed my foot. That was God, because she had prayed the entire night. Like she was crying. She was pleading to God. Please allow her foot to heal without needing surgery. And honestly, like, because of that, I feel like the entire rest of my story and like my testimony has been surrounded around prayer, around the need of prayer. And that's like the biggest, not the biggest testimony, but one of the most like, the most impactful testimony that people will like recognize. Later along the years, I'm still in church. Like when you're growing up, you don't see the effects until you're older and you look back, right? But I go on into my second grade year, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. And as I'm going, like I'm a normal kid. I can run, I can jump, I can do whatever. Like I was slightly of the bigger size as a kid. So I was always a little insecure about myself. I was a little unsure of myself. I had like issues with friends and like stuff like that. But yeah, I was like, you know what? Like I was always a happy kid. My parents would always say like, they would always like on trips and like vacations and stuff. They'd tell me like, I don't know how, but you always found a friend. You always made a friend within the first day. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. And I was just a happy kid. I was a normal happy kid. So leading into my 7th grade year, I want to say, 7th or 8th grade year of middle school, I start having this feeling. And I'm like, okay, I think it's from God. I don't really know what's happening. But in my heart, I felt like you need to speak. You need to talk at school. And I was like, I had, at least at our Adventist school, we had never seen a student speaker. And, like, I had started to fight a little bit of the feeling of anxiety and overthinking. But I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what to label it as. But I just felt like God was telling me, like, you need to be outspoken. You need to say something. And I was like, okay, God, if this is from you, I will talk to the spiritual leader, whatever. I emailed her, and she was like, oh, my gosh, great. Come to my office. I want to talk to you. And I was like, in my head, I was like, why did I do this? What am I getting myself into? I don't know why I did this. Like, I was having a lot of doubts. And I went to her office, and she was like, I'm so glad you came. Because I have been wanting to start a program where students start speaking. Like, I wanted this to start, and I'm so glad that you came to me first because you're going to be the first one. And I was like, what? Oh. I was like, oh.
Hooray.
So I am speaking. Okay. And I wrote my speech, and like, not speech, but I wrote my mini sermon, my words, my whatever. And I remember giving it, and I remember it was like in December. It was like about to be Christmas break.
It was special emphasis, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I remember going up to that stage. I don't remember a single word I said. To this day I don't know if it made sense. I don't know. I just prayed, you know what, Lord, speak through me. You got that. Like, I'm just here to, like, out of what I wrote.
I remember what it was about.
I don't remember.
What was it about? It was about anxiety.
I think
you
so.
talked about anxiety. She was like, yeah, I've dealt with it. That's really what you talked about. And then you talked about how God helped you through it.
I don't know.
You were like, guys, if I'm being honest, I'm really nervous to be up here. And then you started talking.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was good, though. I remember what it was about.
Yeah. I just remember getting off the stage, like, and this is middle school, like, getting off the stage and being like, I don't, like.
I was thinking about
high school?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I talked about, I talked about insecurities or anxiety.
That's what you talked about.
I think I talked about it.
You spoke in middle school?
Exactly.
Oh,
it was.
I was just thinking about, like, junior year.
I just remember just speaking about something, and I was like, I don't know what happened, but it happened. Like, I just remember blanking out, and when I finished talking, I was shaking so bad, and there's so much heat in my body because I was so nervous, and I felt so at peace. So I was like, I did what God told me to do. Like, hey, it's up to God now, right? So then, fast forward into 8th grade, COVID hits, and my family decides, like, after graduation and stuff, I'm going into my freshman year of high school. And my family decides, like, we're still in quarantine, we're still under COVID. We're going to, like, we don't know what the future's going to hold. As of right now, we know everybody's doing online education, like distance learning. So we're just going to put you into FLVS, which is it's called Florida Virtual School, which is just an online school, like online public school. They're like, we're going to put you that in for your freshman year. And I was like, okay, like, interesting. Okay. Like, I couldn't really say anything because it was my parents' decision. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, I had always thought, like, I want to be a doctor. I want to do that after high school, but it's a long career. So what I'm going to do in high school is I'm going to try to skip a grade. I'm going to try to do my freshman year, since I'm already going to be at home. I'm already going to be, like, able to learn and, like, do stuff on my own time. I'm just going to do as many classes as I can so I can skip a grade. So I don't have to do my sophomore year and I go straight into my junior year. And that freshman year, like, I had my troubles. I became a little bit more of a homebody. I became a little bit more anxious, I think, just because I wasn't used to relations outside of my house. Like,
you became used to, like, being alone.
Exactly. I became very, like, more inward. And honestly, I think a lot of people went through that because COVID was intense. It was scary. My whole family was at home for a couple months. My dad still works from home, and we became best buds. We would talk every day. I would hear his meetings. He'd hear my Zoom classes. Like, we became really close, and we would cook breakfast, lunch, dinner all together because we were stuck at home together. But I just remember just feeling like I would go through waves of feeling lonely and then not feeling lonely, and then when I'd have to step outside of the house feeling anxious, and then not, like, it would come in waves, come in and out. But I didn't have to deal with these emotions because I was by myself. I didn't have to deal with anybody. I didn't have to talk to anybody. And in my head, I was still like, I'm going to skip a grade. I'm going to progress. I'm going to do all these things. So nearing the end of my freshman year, we start making plans to go back to school. And I was nervous. I was so nervous. I was like, the people I went to, like, middle school and elementary school with, like, I don't know if they're still going to welcome me. Like, I don't know these people. Like, I'm nervous. I'm scared. Like, I'm going to be that homeschool kid.
Yeah.
It's high school. Like,
because everyone had a choice to go to school, right?
Yeah. Like, at least at FLA, like, the first semester, I think, or at least, like, half of the semester.
The first full freshman year was in person and online. Like, you could do either or. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember in class, we would join teams to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
It was really awkward.
I remember seeing pictures, and I was like, that shouldn't be so bad. But at that time, I was going through puberty, so my acne was intense. I just remember being super insecure about myself, super, like, nervous, super scared. I was like,
those masks did not help with acne either. I was always breaking out in my chin.
But see, I was glad for masks because I was like, if it's breaking me out, at least you can't see it. Like, it's covering me.
The
you know what I mean?
amount of, like, oil I would have on my nose after I took it off, I was like,
it's just humidity, pure humidity on your face. It was so bad. It was not fun. But I was like, you know what? Like, if this is what I am to do, it's fine. Like, I'll do it, whatever. And so we start talking to, like, schools and stuff. Like, we're trying to get my transcripts from FLVS so I can go into, like, FLA. And I remember I emailed one of the counselors at FLA, and I was like, hey, like, I have been online, I've been taking these classes, and I would like to start my junior year. And I was so excited. I was like, yeah, they're going to let me. Like, I had a friend that had done it before. Like, I had a friend that I was looking up to. Like, I always looked up to. She's, like, a sister to us. So I was like, she did it. Like, I don't understand why I can't do it. Like, whatever. And they emailed us back. And they're like, unfortunately, you're missing 4 credits, 2 Bible credits, 2, I think it was like, exercise credits. What is it called? Elective credits. You're missing 2 Bible credits, 2 elective credits, and so we cannot. Excuse me. And they're like, we can't register you.
Because
in
it's like
junior year.
Online.
Because it's online,
and they don't do like
a
Bible
public
classes,
school
right?
that did not do Bible. Like, they didn't do Bible, and I didn't have to take an elective yet. Like, I was taking core classes and I wasn't taking elective classes. And in that moment, I just remembered my whole world shattered. Like, fully shattered. I was like, I had already told my friends I'm skipping a grade. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, my anxiety, I feel like that's when my anxiety got bad.
And you spent all that time,
all that
hard work,
all that
just
effort.
to say no.
Like, a freshman does not take 6 classes. 6, like, and I'm pretty sure like 5 of them were core
It's
classes.
like double, no? Like freshman English and then sophomore English and then...
Not necessarily, because what we did was we looked on, like, the Florida standards. Like, Florida's requirements in order to graduate. And so we based it off of that.
Because they changed it.
Once we
became juniors, they added a whole nother, like, class and everything.
Yeah.
So now you're
changed
taking
it
an extra credit. We didn't need that.
They changed it, but when I was a freshman, like, the way that they set it up, any school sets it up, is so that it's even. So you're not taking too many core classes or too many electives. Mm-hmm. They spread it out so, like, you have an even load and you're learning at a consistent pace. The way that me and my family, like, we figured it out was, like, I would take these classes this year and then, like, progress.
Yeah.
So I had taken a history class that usually freshmen don't take. They take it their sophomore year. So I had taken it the year before. And, like, we had figured it out, and we had so many meetings with FLA. We had, I remember emailing, like, or, like, looking at other schools, like Brantley, like, all this stuff. And I remember having this vivid conversation with my dad. I was like, Dad, I can go to Lake Brantley and skip a grade. I can go to any other school and skip a grade. I don't have to go to FLA. I don't care, like, I can skip a grade at any school. Like, I was desperate at this point. I was like, I don't want people to see me as, like, that one girl that says she was skipping grade and then she didn't skip a grade. Like, I didn't want that image of myself. I had held myself to such a high standard, and I was so, like, adamant. And I was like, God, like, I remembered praying it. I remember talking about it. I remember, like I was so frustrated. I was like, I can do this at any other school, but why are you sending me to FLA? Because my dad had, like, he was like, okay, if they say no, like, we can try at other schools, but there's no need to go to other schools. Like, you should just go to FLA. And I was like, Dad, no. Like, this is not fair. Like, I was so, like, frustrated and, like, visibly frustrated. And we had multiple conversations, like, a lot of conversations about this. And I was like, no, like, I was so frustrated to the point where I was like, you know what? Whatever you want. Like, I'm not the one paying for my school. Like, we could go get free education somewhere else. Like, I can do all the things that I want to do, but I can't. And all he had told me was, like, all he would say was, pray about it. And I don't think that these schools are going to fulfill the needs that you have. I was like, what? What do you mean, like, fulfill the needs? Like, I just want to get I just want to study. I just want to get out of here so I can start my career, like, start what I want to study. And I just remember he's like, no, like, you like music, you like to sing, you like to play, you like to be part of, like, the volleyball team, all this stuff. Like, you don't need, like, you're not going to get all of that at a public school. And I was like, and I'll sacrifice that if I can just get out of here. And I couldn't understand it. I remember putting it up to prayer. I remember being angry with God. I was like, God, why are you letting this happen to me? This is not fair. This is not, like, and this is all, like, in the summer. Like, all in the span of, like, 2 months, this back and forth, constant back and forth, until the point where I was like, you know what? Whatever. It is what it is. And if I'm the girl that didn't skip a grade, I didn't skip a grade. I was so frustrated. And I remember going to the parent orientation, and I was just so embarrassed because I was that one kid that came back, not a junior, and just showing up with all these people trying to not fit in, but trying to reconnect with friends that had already made other friends and moved on. And I was just like, I felt lonely. I felt so alone. And the first day of parent orientation, which was like the Sunday before the first day of school, I was sitting with my dad in our class meeting, and he was like, hey, you know that girl? Like, you should talk to her. You should become friends with that girl. And I was like, okay. I was like, please don't point. Like, we're in the middle of a meeting. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, literally, I was like, Dad, like, let's not. No. And, like, he was like, yeah, like, you should, like, send her your, I'll give her, like, her dad's number. Like, you can talk to her. Like, my dad had known
like,
her
we're in
dad.
middle school. Like, they're trying to, like,
literally,
make
like, they were
friends.
making me friends. I was like, Dad, like, no, like, this is embarrassing. And he was like, no, like, I know her dad. I know her family. Like, I know what she's been through. Like, you should be friends. You guys are going to hit it off. And I was like, okay, like, whatever. Like, I was like, okay, Dad. Okay, whatever. And my Sweet 15, my quinceañera, was a week into the school year. And I had, like, so I was busy with starting school, a new school, which even though I knew majority of people still knew, I'm pretty sure I got lost a couple times. I felt like a freshman. And that year, like, first day of school, I ended up actually meeting the girl, and we became best friends. Like, we became super close. And I just remember, like, we clicked, and I was able to make friends, like, new friends, new people on the first day of school. And in that moment, I was so frustrated with God. I was still angry with God. I was still praying. I was like, God, like, if we leave right now, like, that's fine. Like, we can leave. We can start at a new school. Like, it's fine. Like, yeah. I don't care. I'll make new friends. I'll be that one girl that starts in the middle of the school year. Like, I don't care. I still want to skip a grade. And I felt in my heart that God was saying, like, just let it go. Let that go and grow. I was like, okay, if you say so. So I became friends with this girl. I got really close with her. I became friends with a bunch of friends. Because I had started new, I had quite a bit classes with freshmen, quite a bit of classes with upperclassmen, but I didn't have that many classes with people in my grade because I had already done some of those classes the year before.
So they didn't make you, like, retake the classes you already took?
They didn't, because I didn't do it over the summer. I had done it during an actual school year.
So you're in summer, you're taking, like, junior classes and kind of, like, freshman classes?
In a way, like, I had to take, like, a fitness class, what usually freshmen take. I took, like, honors English with sophomores, but, like, it was a very small, close group of sophomores. My math class was juniors.
It was just mixed.
It was just a mix. And I had a lot of free time, but I didn't at the same time. But that year, I decided to take choir, and I decided to take band, because my family, they were like, if you're going to go to an expensive school, you're going to do everything. You're going to be part of the band. You're going to be part of the choir. You're going to do this. And, like, I liked it, but I was like, Dad.
All that adds on to the tuition. Oh, my God.
All of it. I just
tuition.
add cost against cost against cost. And also, I was like, I'm the new kid. Why am I doing everything? I'm the new kid. Like, I just want time to learn, to figure out who I am.
Before you
all of this
put yourself out there more.
Meanwhile, I'm already fighting, like, everything. I'm in choir, I'm doing this, I have performances, I have this and that. All the meantime, I'm fighting myself. I'm fighting my anxiety. I'm fighting my overthinking. I'm fighting all of this stuff. And I'm constantly in this battle within myself where I was like, I have to make sure I'm wearing a mask so that they don't have to see my acne. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to act like this, I have to do this. And I couldn't let myself be me. I was living in this, like, cycle of, like, I kept adjusting to the people around me. And as the year went on, I felt getting farther and farther away from God. I felt like this distance from God. But then midway through the year, again, I heard a knock on my heart and be like, hey, it's time to speak again. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to speak about. I don't have anything to speak about because I'm angry. I'm still mad. I'm fighting anxiety. I'm fighting all this overthinking. Like, why? Why me? Like, choose someone else. Please choose someone else. I was having issues with friends. I was having issues with people around me. And I kept fighting myself. I was like, no, like, I can't do this. I can't. And I ignored it. I completely ignored it. I couldn't ignore that feeling. And I finished my sophomore year, and I got in this huge argument with my parents. Details we're not going to talk about. Details that it's just not podcast appropriate. But I got into this huge argument with my parents. I got into an argument with my friends, and I felt so lonely. I felt so alone, and I just remember crying my eyes out. And during that summer, and I was fighting myself. I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know I don't know why my anxiety was going up. And I was like, you know what? I can't. And during that summer was when the night that I broke. That summer, I remember one night I was just trying to sleep. My connection with my parents, not that good. I didn't have that many friends. My connection with my sister, not that good. I just felt alone. It was this constant cycle of wake up, go to work, go to church, come home, do stuff for the church, go to Vespers, do whatever. Meanwhile, the after effects of COVID are still going on. So people are still afraid to go out. People are still afraid to do this stuff. So I just kept being alone. I felt like every time I was outside, I just wanted to crawl into a shell or crawl into my bed and just hide. And that one night, I just remember there was so much going on. I was back and forth in my head. I was replaying everything that had happened, all the decisions I had taken, everything wrong that I did, everything that I could have done, everything that had happened to me, everything. I was just replaying everything, and I just felt like I was spiraling on this downward spiral, and I couldn't stop. And it's 2, 3 a.m. at this point, and I just can't sleep. And I know I mentioned the story in another episode before, and I remember that in that moment, I was like, God, I just want to sleep. I don't care what's going on. I don't care what will happen tomorrow. I don't care what happened today. I'm just tired. I'm tired of overthinking. I'm tired of myself and fighting myself. I'm tired of fighting with everybody else. I just want to sleep. I just want to rest. Because I have things to do tomorrow, and I just want to sleep, God. That's all I ask. Tomorrow we can talk about everything else, but tonight, just allow me to sleep. And to this day, I still haven't gotten sleep that good. I remember waking up the next morning and be like, thank you, God. Thank you for giving me this sleep unlike any other. Thank you for giving me rest, because I felt so refreshed. And that began the process to where I am now. The process of rebuilding connections, finding new friends, trusting God. And I just remember going into my junior year, I was still afraid. I was still I felt myself at the beginning falling into this cycle of the same person I was the year before, even though my connection with God was starting again, starting to get stronger, starting to rebuild. And I was just there. But my junior year, I began to take on a little bit more things. I started to become more involved in the spiritual stuff at school. And it wasn't that I put myself there. I was involved. People would be like, hey, can you help us? Hey, can you do this? And I felt like God was telling me, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Just stop thinking. Stop overthinking. Just do it. Just go out and do it. Do what I'm asking of you. And I felt I was like, okay, I'm trusting you, God. This is scary, but I'm trusting you. And my junior year, I met these my amazing friends, my best friend. I met her. I got really close with her my junior year. I began to experience so many new things, involved in so many new things, and I felt like I was awake. I felt like I could be me again. I could be the funny, person, or the energetic person that I am. I felt like I could finally step out of my anxious state. And then again, I heard the knock. Hey, it's time to speak again. And I'm not a speaker. I'm not a
This is the one I was referencing,
This
guys.
is the one she was referencing. Because I remember I was like, I'm not that much of a speaker. I've gone through so much anxiety. Why would someone want to listen to me? I'm not that good of a speaker. My hands were shaking. But I just felt like God was like, just do it. Just talk. Just go. I need you to do this. And I was like, okay, God, here we go. So I remember texting our campus pastor. And I'm pretty sure this is midway through the year, maybe second semester, I kept putting it off. I was like, no, I'll text him. I'll email him next week. I'll do this next week. To the point where I was like, I felt this burning desire that was like, you need to speak. Like someone, like I felt God saying like, someone needs to hear you. Someone needs to do this. And I was like, okay, I did this back in 7th grade, but I don't remember how that went. I don't know if people are going to remember that and it's going to blow up in flames, like whatever. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I emailed him and he was like, perfect. Here's the day. And if you need help writing what you're going to speak, come to me. I can help you. But if not, you're going to be great. And I was like,
That's it.
that's intense.
Send them on your merry way.
Like, he was like, just do it. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you don't need to prep me. You don't need to, like, I don't need to go through, like, Bible study. I don't need to do this. Like, you're just going to let me go? And he's like, yeah, like, just do it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh.
If that's the case, then let's do it. And I remember the night before, I made a PowerPoint presentation. I remember it was super cute. I remember, and I was like, you know what? Like, the best thing that I can talk about, the best testimony that I have is about anxiety. And so I was like, I'm not perfect with my anxiety. I really don't know why I feel like I should talk about anxiety, but I feel like me talking about my experience, it'll help someone else. I prayed about it. Next day, I went. I was shaking in my boots. Like, my hands were like literally, like, I had never shook that bad. And I remember, like, the pastor came up to me before I went up to speak, like, while they were singing. He came up to me. He was like, hey, I'm going to pray for you. I was like, okay, this is actually real. Like, we're actually starting. And he came out. He was like, you're going to be fine. Like, as soon as you step onto that stage, everything is going to go away. And I was like, you're lying. Like, that's not true. But okay. And he prayed with me. I remember tearing up in that prayer. And I remember being so nervous. And as soon as I stepped onto that stage, I spoke. I started talking.
Period.
And it happens to me every time. I get off the stage and it's like I blacked out. Like, I don't remember specific words. I just remember this feeling of like happiness, this feeling of I did it. Like, I got it out of my chest. And so I continued. And so I think I began more involved in the spiritual aspect. I continued like strengthening my relationships. My relationship with my parents was pretty good at this point. And I felt like I was restarting to know who I am. I was restarting to trust God again, just trust him with everything. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, it really felt like everything was going to be okay. And so going into my senior year of high school, I remember having this conversation with Asette, and she said, I want to get rebaptized. I was like,
Teaser for next episode.
for next week. But I just remember looking at her, I was like, we can do that? Like,
Of course.
I didn't, like, in my head, like, the idea of rebaptism was not, I didn't think that was a thing. Like, I thought, like, I had gotten baptized when I was 9 years old. I was young. I just baptized because my sister got baptized.
And I wanted that little patch on the
I wanted the little pin
pin
on my Pathfinder badge. Like, and like, I remember talking to the pastor and he was like, but you're 9. And I was like, okay. Like,
I remember those Bible lessons.
I just, honestly,
Genesis.
I just wanted to be in that warm water. I just wanted to
It
be
was not warm, girl. That thing was cold.
Really? Mine was warm.
Mine was cold. Me and Jadelle got baptized on the same day, and it was freezing in that water.
Really? I got baptized with Ellie and Emily that
Oh,
same
that's
day.
cute.
And I was chilling. I was fine. I remember my cousins came for that. Like, it was such a big moment. But in my heart, like, I got baptized. But I was like, this is it. Like, okay, okay.
Right, yeah, and some people are like, oh, you're gonna go back up and you're gonna feel
it's
like
the heavens are singing and it's everything. And I was like, that did not happen. But okay.
I just wanted a little dunk in the pool.
I was like, I just wanted to like get get in the water, like, like I want to see what the hype is about. So I got baptized, and I remember like when I began to restart this connection with God, my idea always went back to the baptism. Like, I was like, yeah, I got baptized, but I want to recommit my life. So I did it with God. I told God, I was like, recommitting my life to you. I'm gonna start again. So my senior year, we had this conversation. It was like before senior year, I think. Before the year started.
It was right in the beginning of the year because during spiritual emphasis, you were praying. And that was when we talked about it after.
Yeah. But actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. After my junior year, or during, like at the end of my junior year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for pastor. Like, I've already spoken once. I was like, I'm going to be a senior pastor. I wanted to be part of the officials because I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I was part of the student government my senior year, like something else to add to the resume. But I was like, I feel like I could do something for the school. Like I had church experience with doing Vespers at church. So I was like, I'm going to try it. Why not? Like, and I did it with two other of my best friends. Like I knew who was already in government. So I was like, okay, like let's try it. So I ran the election and I ran unopposed. Thank the Lord. And so I became the senior pastor. So
wait, I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
You're the only one who ran?
Yeah.
So if no one runs, then they don't have any pastors? They don't have a class pastor?
Yeah.
Basically.
They
Really?
can ask the one from the year before if they want to run again, but if they can say no, and if no one runs, like there's no pastor, and they just ask people to be pastor. Like they ask like, oh, like, hey, like they ask random people like if they want to become pastors. And also, even though I ran unopposed, I could have been voted no, because when you at least I don't know at other schools, but at our school, like if you run unopposed, like they'll have
there's
like,
a yes or no.
there's a yes or no. Like, do you want this person to be for pastor? Yes or no. So people could have voted no, and I could have not been pastor. Like,
What?
it's just really awkward. But yeah, so I'm pastor my senior year, and the first week of school, like a couple days before the first week, like literally like 2 days before, our campus pastor calls me. He's like, hey, I have to
Wait, before what? I'm sorry.
before school starts.
Okay.
It's like literally like 2 days before. Like
You were already class pastor.
I was already class pastor. I had one, and like we had like talked, like the government had already like not the government, the officers had already talked about it. Like, oh, like this is what we have planned for the year. Like yada yada yada. And so our campus pastor, he calls me 2 days before. He's like, hey, can you speak on like the third day of school? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, and he's like, yeah, well, like the second, actually, I think it was before the second week. Either way, our first spiritual emphasis, like our first week of prayer, I had a speaker and he fell through, or she fell through. And I don't have anybody to speak, so I'm asking different pastors of different classes. And I hope, like, I really need you. And if it's too little of time, like, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. But I really need you. And I was like, me? Little old me? Like, okay. Like, I did it once. And I told him, I was like, let me think about it. Let me pray about it, and I'll get back to you. And that night, I prayed, and God was like, do it. What's holding you back? You've done it twice now. What's holding you back? Like, you have a position. You have the chance to help someone else through what you're going through. Why don't you do it? And I remember that time, I called him back, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I'll be prepared. I was nervous, and I remember talking about control. And specifically, I used an example of water balloons, and I got in a little bit of trouble because the water got all over, like, they got a little bit mad at me because the water on the stage had gotten outside of a kiddie pool that I had. So, like, they were like, oh, my gosh, like, the stage, the equipment's, like, please don't ever bring water again. Like, this is not good. And I was like, whoops.
I didn't know you got in trouble for that.
I didn't get in trouble, but they were like, hey, like, just next time you speak, don't use water. And I was like, yes, sir. I got you. And again, like, I was nervous, but I felt like God was talking through me, speaking through me. And I felt this peace. Like, every time I spoke, I felt like this peace that was like you did okay. God spoke through you. You're going to be okay. So then this idea of rebaptism is still in my head. We had talked, and, like, Lisette was like, yeah, I want to get rebaptized. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I would love to. But what are people going to think about the class pastor getting baptized again?
That's why I didn't tell anybody I wanted to get rebaptized.
I was just nervous. I was like, class pastor getting rebaptized. Like, that's, like, I felt like that was,
That's
like,
definitely a statement.
Yeah, I was like, that's just a statement. Like, this is scary. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is terrifying. But I let it be. I was like, whatever. I continue my senior year. I'm having a blast. I had a great time. And in January, we go on this trip called prayer conference. It's something that the Southern Union does, and it's this time where, like, you get to groups. And I had been asked to be a leader at prayer conference, and I was scared. So I was like, I don't know who my co-leader is gonna be. I don't know what group of kids we got. And for a prayer conference, like, it's 2 leaders per group of like 15 to 20 kids.
That's a lot.
And then
it's like a classroom.
It's a lot. And then you have to, like, do activities and stuff. And then there's always the general sessions, like, where there's a invited pastor that comes and speaks. And I had gone to this the year before, But this year, like, I was like, as a leader, like, I'm scared. Like, I have to be this spiritual image to these kids, like, have these conversation with them. And I was so nervous. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, after I said yes, I was like, why did I do that? Like, I thought about quitting. I genuinely did think about quitting. And when I got there to the camp, the leaders get there like 2 days before, something like that. And the day that we got there and we started doing activities, I was still going like over these anxious thoughts, over these things like, excuse me. I kept going over these like thoughts, these things of like, why are you here? Like, you're not worthy of being a leader. You're not doing anything. And I remember that first night, the pastor read this verse, and it's stuck with me ever since. It's currently my favorite verse. It's genuinely my favorite verse, something that I go back to quite frequently. And it's found in Joshua 1:9, and it says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." And to that point, after hearing that story, I felt so at peace. I had this really good co-leader who I'm still really good friends with to this day. We had a really good group. We had really good discussions. Like, I was like, okay, God, well, you don't have to show off this much. Like, wow. And every night, like, I still had that feeling like, hey, you should get rebaptized. Like, I knew that there was going to be baptisms at the end of the week, but I didn't feel like I had that feeling in me, but I didn't want to be the one to be like, hey, I want to get rebaptized. Like, I didn't want to be that one person. And I remember that it was Saturday night. We had done communion with our groups. And I remember turning to one of, like, another leader from my school that had gone. And I remember turning and be like, hey, I think I want to get rebaptized. And she was like, oh, my gosh, you should do it. Like, you should totally do it. Like, you should so do it. Like, please go do it. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, I feel like doing it, but I don't know. Like, there's so many, I feel like it's too late, like, whatever. And she was like, you should do it. And I was like, I'll think about it. And I remember texting my friend, my best friend. I remember texting Hazel that night, and I was like, Hazel, should I do it? And she was like, what? And I was like, should I get baptized? And I turned off my phone, and I went to sleep. I didn't even wait for an answer.
Oh, amazing.
I just went to sleep. And I remember waking up, I prayed. I prayed that night. I was like, God, I don't know if this is right. Like, I think I'm too late. Baptisms are going to be at 8. Like, I don't know at what time I'm waking up. I'm super tired. Like, I don't think I'm going to do this. Like, I maybe not. Like, I'll find another time so I can talk to my parents. Like, I don't want to say that I want to get baptized because this is scary. Like, so many eyes are on you. Like, the class pastor that has spoken at school twice now, like, to then say, like, hey, yeah, I'm actually getting rebaptized. Like, I was like, no, like, I don't want this to be my image. Like, I was scared. I was so scared. And I just left it like that. I prayed the prayer. And the next morning, I woke up, and I see my phone, and and Hazel was like, do it. Like, you please do it. And I was like, well, I think that's my sign. But it's like, baptisms were at 8, and it's 7:50. And, like, you didn't have to be at baptisms. From our school, one of my other close friends was getting baptized, and, like, we wanted to go. So, like, if I would have gotten ready, I would have been there on time. But then I was like, it wasn't, like, that big of a deal, right? And so,
were you there?
No.
She wasn't.
I wanted to go, but I never got an email back, so I didn't go.
So then I walk out of my room, and I was with the girl that I had told the night before, and I was with another one of the leaders, and I was like, hey, should I get baptized? Like,
she was asking everybody.
I was asking for confirmation.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I had the confirmation. I just didn't want to believe it.
Are you sure?
And I was like, okay. And they were like, yes, do it. Call the they were like, I'll call the pastor. If you call your parents, like, we can make this work. And I was like, okay, like, it is what it is. So I grabbed clothes that I knew that I could get wet in, and I called the pastor, and I was like, hey, is it too late to get baptized? And he was like, they're about to start baptisms, but just run, just come here, call your parents, call your parents and call me back, and then come. I call my dad, and he's half asleep, and he's like, what? And I was like, hey, like, everything's okay. Can I get baptized? And he was like,
can I get baptized?
I was like, can I get baptized? He's like, sure. Like, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you're sure of. I was like, okay. And then I asked my mom, and she was like, okay. Like, they're half asleep. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I hung up the phone, and I'm, like, running. I'm running down to the springs where everybody's getting baptized. And I'm making it just in time. Like, after they introduced everybody that was getting baptized is when I made it there. And everybody looked at me, and they're like, oh, my gosh, you're getting baptized? And I was like, yeah, actually I am. And I got baptized, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. It was one of those moments where I was like, I did the right decision. I felt like this is the right decision. I have felt like this was the true start of this re-encounter with God. And I was always nervous. I was always scared. And I remember people like asking me like, so did you always know that you were getting baptized? I was like, no, I made this decision in 10 minutes. Like literally 10 minutes I had decided to get baptized. And he was like, okay, like everybody was happy for me, and I was so ecstatic. I was so happy, and all these worries that I had just went away. And this verse kept, like, throughout the rest of my senior year. Honestly, to this day, this verse is still super important to me, and super, like, I literally have it on my phone wallpaper. Like, it's so like it's genuinely one of the ones that like help me feel like I'm okay, because even though I still to this day fight anxiety, I still fight overthinking, I still fight, like, my temptations. I still fight it all. But God still says, like, it's okay. I'm here. And you're going to be okay. You can do this. You're strong and courageous, and you can fight it. And honestly, like, that's my biggest testimony. That's my biggest lesson that I've learned. And the biggest thing that, like, I will always preach. I ended up preaching again my senior year. And I remember using this verse as one of, like, the important, as one of, like the main text, that no matter what you're going through, God is still there for you, and he's willing to hold you. He's willing to calm you. Even the simplest thing that you ask him, he will be okay. And God's not going to stop knocking on your door. He's not going to stop asking you for prayer. He's not going to stop pursuing you, because he still loves you, and he's still always after you. So, yeah. That's so cute. It was a little extended version of my testimony, but that is mine. I encourage you guys to look at that verse if you're ever fighting anxiety and fighting moments of despair and nervousness. But yeah,
I like it. I've heard the verse before, but like it fits so well with their story.
Yeah.
Like when she said it,
it's
I was
like her story.
Wait, exactly.
That's
her
her
verse.
It's what I felt. And I remember, like, during the summer, I did a short Bible. Like, I wanted to know where this verse came from, and I read like a couple chapters into Joshua, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're twins. Like, you're going through this moment where you don't know what's going to happen. You're nervous. God is telling you to do something, but you don't feel like you're adequate enough. You don't feel like you're deserving of it. But God is still saying, I got you. Don't worry about it. Just do it. Just literally just do it. And you can ask Julieta, you can ask anybody. If anybody asks me advice on anything or if they should do something, I always say just do it. Oh, yeah,
she's the one.
Literally do it. Like, just do it. Don't question it, because if it's something... If you feel like it's from God, it's probably from God. Just do it. Don't question God's intentions, because that's when everything else happens. But just do it. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So, well, that's the end of my testimony. Come back next week to hear Lisette's testimony.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we appreciate you guys listening into our podcast every week. And we encourage you to continue listening and comment down below anything that you want to know. Follow us on Instagram. And yeah.
And if you have any verses that like kind of go with your testimony, we want to hear them too.
Yeah, put your testimony, put it down below. Yes. Like, we want to hear it. We want to know more about you guys. We want to learn about our followers, because this is so cool. Yeah. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
I am about to pee myself. Guys, I'm not even kidding. I had to unbuckle my pants and I'm like trying to get Keilyn's attention. Like, please, termina ya.
Go to the other side of church and see if they're still there.
I have to run over there. I'm going to pee myself by the time I get over there.
Okay, then go to the bush. Get in the bush.
Grab my stuff. Where's my phone? I don't have my pen.
Go pee.
New centerpiece, guys. Hey, guys, our host today is the Plants. Welcome back to the Bible. Today, the Plant's going to share its testimony with you guys today. This Plant's been through a lot.
See, I
I'm making sure your mic works. Okay, guys.
These are huge.
Your head is huge.
Julieta always messes it up. Never says
Keilyn's like, I'm your host today.
part 2 of our 3-part series of our testimonies.
Boss.
Oh my gosh, my foot got stuck.
I'm gonna break it.
Okay.
Anyways,
Thumbnail. Clifford the big red dog.
No, not the set.
Whatever. Nope.
Okay.
Exclude me. Ew. Oh, no.
Oh
This
my
lighting is
gosh.
terrible. Someone else take it.
oh my god, just get in the picture.